I'm gonna be honest with y'all. The closer we get to Khamzat versus Dricus Du Plessis, the more I start second guessing everything. Like, I've gone back and forth on this matchup more than any other fight this year. And first, I was fully leaning on Dricus. That gritty, chaotic type energy, the weird angles, the pressure, the plot armor. He's the kind of dude that just finds a way to win, even when it looks like he's on the verge of collapse. But then, I went back and started watching Khamzat's fights again, and bro, when that man is fresh, he is terrifying. The speed, the power, the commitment to his grappling, it's all overwhelming. It's like watching someone hit that takedown button on the cheat mode. So now I'm in that weird space where I don't feel confident leaning either way. I'm not trying to hype anyone up. I'm not on the Dricus hype train or the Khamzat bandwagon. I just want to break this down for what it is. No bias, no emotion, just real tape, real tools, and what happens when they clash. Because this fight, it's not just another striker versus wrestler. It's chaos versus control, grit versus polish, maybe even heart versus pressure. And depending on one thing, and we'll get into that later, depending on whether or not Khamzat's gas tank can hold up, this can be over in 5 minutes, or it could turn into a nasty, drawn-out war. So let's get into it. Alright, so let's talk about Dricus Du Plessis, because it's easy to clown this guy for how weird he looks in the cage. His stance is awkward, his breathing is loud, his technique can be messy, but underneath all that, he's dangerous as hell. And it's not by accident either. First off, the dude is a tank of a middleweight, thick frame, huge torso, strong legs. You're not just muscling this guy around. When he locks you into the clinch or gets a top position, it's not fun for anybody. He doesn't need a perfect technique to make you feel it. His physicality alone puts a lot of dudes on the defense. And cardio-wise, say what you want, but he can go deep into fights. He might look like he's dying by round 2, but he's still throwing, he's still clinching, and still pushing the pace. And more importantly, he's still dangerous. It's that kind of gritty durability that turns fight around. Like, you think, oh, he's done, and then boom, he hurts you, and suddenly he's on top raining shots. Another thing that people sleep on is that he's versatile. He doesn't panic in different phases of the fight. On the feet, he's unpredictable. He'll throw wild kicks, weird looping shots, change levels, crash into you, he'll make it messy. And if the fight hits the mat, he's not lost down there either. He's gotten takedowns in nearly every UFC fight and shown that he can hold top position or reverse when needed. Like, yeah, his grappling is ugly, but it's functional. He's not going to roll with the Mendes brothers, but he'll make you work for everything. And that's the biggest thing, man. He finds a way to win. Whether it was dragging Brunson into deep waters or breaking Sean Strickland's rhythm with relentless pressure or outstriking him from a distance, Dricus has that X factor, that you're not getting me out here easily energy. Call it plot armor, call it grit, whatever it is, it shows up when it matters. Even when he looked outclassed against Adesanya early, he still found moments, still kept coming. So yeah, even if it looks wild or messy at times, you can't count him out, because awkward or not, that chaos he brings, it works. And if you're not built to deal with that kind of pace over multiple rounds, he'll overwhelm you. That's what makes Dricus Du Plessis a real threat, even in a matchup like this. But with all that being said, here's where things start to get a little bit concerning for Dricus, because as much as I respect his grit and the chaos he brings, the dude is mechanically flawed, let's be real, in many ways that really matter in this fight, okay? Especially this one. Like, let's just call it what it is. Dricus Du Plessis has bad posture in grappling exchanges, like real bad. When he shoots or defends a takedown, his hips float. He leans way too far away, and his base is narrow to the point where he's basically begging you to sprawl on or in front of a headlock. You gotta watch that Derek Brunson fight again. Yeah, he won, but man, there was moments where he looked like he was skating on ice, okay? Every time an exchange extended or it got messy, he ended up off balance, tipping forward or giving up position, just trying to muscle through it. And that kind of scramble, it might work against someone like Brunson, who, let's be real, empty his gas tank halfway through round 1. But against Khamzat, that's where things get dark. Yes, his cardio may not be the best, but Khamzat doesn't give you time to fix those mistakes. You give him your hips, he's lifting. You try to explode without control, he's already one arm deep in the choke. There's no reset button with a guy like that. And it's not just balance, it's reaction time. When Dricus gets taken down or stuck in a scramble, his instincts is to power through it. It doesn't really have those calm technical reactions that you see from someone who spends years defending chain wrestling. He leans forward, he turns his back to get up, he gives up underhook consistently, and against someone like Khamzat, who chains takedowns, who floats through positions, who's built to capitalize on a split-second mistake, that's a death sentence, okay? Even when he's on his back, Dricus doesn't really show much in terms of recovering mechanics, you know? You don't really see him using his legs to frame or recover guard. You don't see hip movement to create space. He'll bench press his way out or just sit up into a scramble. And against a guy who thrives on crushing top pressure, that's risky. You get flattened out underneath Khamzat and you're not working your way back up. You're eating shots or defending chokes, okay? And that's what makes this matchup so tricky, because Dricus is the kind of fighter who needs things to break down a bit before he takes over. But if he makes those mistakes early, if he gives up positions the way we've seen it before, he might not get a second chance. Khamzat doesn't stall. He doesn't give you time to breathe. And if he has dominant positions, he's hunting for a finish immediately. So yeah, Dricus is tough. He's unorthodox. He's physical. But when you start really looking at the technical gaps, the way he reacts in the positions, the way he overcommits in the clinch, the way he floats through scrambles, that's where Khamzat can expose him. That's where the danger lives, okay? Now let's flip it and talk about Khamzat Chimaev, because if we're going to be real, the dude's grappling is a centerpiece of the whole matchup. It's not just that he can wrestle. It's how fast, how aggressive, and how clean he is when he commits. When Khamzat decides to shoot, it's not a slow buildup or some telegraph setup. It's an instant level change, a full speed sprint through your hips. And before you can react, you're already off balance or flat on your back. His double leg might be the fastest in the sport. No exaggeration. He doesn't wait for an angle to appear, he creates it. Against guys like Usman and Kevin Holland, he wasn't just taking them down, he was dragging them across the cage, lifting them off the mat, chaining together shots like it was a muscle memory. And once he gets on top of you, he doesn't sit on your guard and plays it safe. He transitions, he floats, breaks posture, and smothers. I mean, go watch the Holland fight. Holland consistently trying to Granby roll and fucking scrambles, and Khamzat just flowed with him. You know, he cartwheeled through the transitions, landed in a dominant spot, and immediately started working for the front headlock, dart setup, and submitted. Same thing in the Whitaker fight. Khamzat hit a super low double, backs Rob into the fence, takes him down with ease. Rob escapes once, cool. Khamzat immediately reshoots, get him back down, and climbs to a dominant position. That pace, that pressure, and willingness to stay in your face with layer attacks, it's what's making him a nightmare. He's not just a takedown guy, he's a system breaker guy. And when he's fresh, it's almost impossible to stop. The problem for most guys isn't just defending one takedown, it's surviving the sequence, because Khamzat doesn't just shoot and see what happens. He builds pressure, he shoots, drags, lifts, transitions, floats to mount, threaten a choke, and that's the kind of grappling that doesn't just wear you out physically, it breaks guys mentally. So when people talk about being a striker versus a wrestler fight, that's not the entire whole story. This isn't some wrestler and hole type of guy. This is someone who grapples with intent to finish, whether that's a ground and pound or a submission. The only real question is cardio, because we've seen that pace fall off. Against Burns, after the first round, things started getting sloppy. Against Usman, he started fading hard after a dominant round one. So yeah, if Khamzat doesn't get you out there early, the fight changes. But in the first 5 minutes, you better not make a mistake, because if he gets on top and finds a dominant position, he's not going to coast. He's going to smash. Now, as much as Khamzat looked like a machine when he's fresh, and trust me, when he's locked in, it's scary. And there are legit questions that mark hanging over him. And the biggest one, the one that keeps coming up every time we try to project him over 3 or 5 rounds, is the cardio. We've seen him look like a world beater in round 1. Against Kevin Holland, quick finish. Against Usman, dominant opening round. But the moment those fights start creeping past the 5-minute mark, something changes. The pace, the ferocity, it drops. He's still dangerous, don't get it twisted, but he's no longer overwhelming. And for a guy who relies on that full speed pressure to break you, that's a problem if it can't be sustained. I mean, in the Burns fight, Khamzat didn't relentlessly shoot or chain wrestle that much. He only went for a couple takedowns early, then he got pulled into a striking war, and once Burns started cracking him, the fight changed. Khamzat got emotional, started swinging wildly, and abandoned his usual composure. That's not the version you want in a dogfight, especially not against someone like Dricus, who's living for messy, high-pressure rounds. If Dricus can survive the early dangers and drag Khamzat into a chaos, things can flip real fast, okay? Even in the Whitaker fight, yeah, it was dominant early, but what if Rob didn't panic tap, okay? What if he survived that first round? That's still something we haven't really seen. what Khamzat's cardio look like in round 2 or round 3 when the finish doesn't come in round 1. Does he start burning gas for 7 or 8 minutes straight? Who knows? He says that the cardio's fixed now. He's training with Sam Calavita, the same guy who transformed Cejudo and Dillashaw, and maybe that version of Khamzat is a 5-round monster, but we haven't seen it yet, and that's the truth. And one last thing, we still don't know how Khamzat handles someone who doesn't fold. Most of the fights end before he can really mount any offense. He wins through dominance and speed. But what if he can't ragdoll Dricus? What if Dricus gets up, forces the clinch, digs underhooks, and starts turning the tides? We don't know how Khamzat deals with that kind of pressure over time. So yeah, the dude is elite, but he's not untouchable. There's gaps in his cardio and discipline, especially when he's forced into a dogfight. Those are real. And against a guy who thrives when the wheels are starting to come off, that might be one of the openings that Dricus needs. Now, if you're Dricus Du Plessis, you've got to accept something right away. You're going to get taken down. That's just the reality. There's no version of this fight where Khamzat doesn't get to your hips, especially early. So the key isn't about stuffing every shot. It's about not panicking once it hits the mat. Don't give up position. Don't turn your back trying to explode. Don't go full desperation mode and leave your neck hanging. That's how the fight ends. Instead, Dricus has to do what he does best. Make it ugly, make Khamzat work, scramble hard, force reshoots, fight the hands, dig for underhooks, get to your feet. Don't try to avoid the chaos. Lean into it, because the more Khamzat has to work, the more that gas tank can get tested. And if Dricus can keep it messy, if he can survive those 5 to 6 minutes without getting mauled, the dynamic of the fight starts to change. He's got the cardio to push late, he's got the strength to grind in the clinch, and if Khamzat fades even a little, Dricus is right there, ready to drag him into deep waters. I mean, he can also look for his own takedowns. It sounds crazy, but if Khamzat gets too comfortable or starts to slow, that might be the exact moment that Dricus can flip the script. He's done it before. He doesn't have to out-wrestle Khamzat. He just has to make him react, make him work, then make him pay. Now, on the other side, if you're Khamzat, the mission is simple. Dominate early, start fast, shoot fast, establish control, don't play around on the feet, don't give Dricus room to build chaos. You have to smother him. Get to his legs, dump him, climb to mount, or get the front headlock and start cooking, okay? If you get him flat on his back in the first 2 minutes, the whole fight might not even leave the first round. But here's the key. Khamzat can't get reckless. He can't chase the finish and burn himself out. He has to be sharp, stick to the game plan, be surgical with pressure, control position. If the sub or finish is there, take it. But don't force it. You're not fighting Kevin Holland. You're fighting someone who will be in your face if you let him breathe. Khamzat's best path to victory is never giving Dricus moments. Drag him into your world immediately. Keep him in the mat. Make him carry your weight. And if you do that without emptying the tank, you've already won most of the battle. The fight is about who breaks first, and more importantly, who forces the other guy to operate outside their comfort zone. Dricus needs time, space, and scrambles. Khamzat needs control, dominance, and clean transitions. Whoever dictates that energy early is probably walking out with their hands raised. Simple as that. And at the end of the day, the biggest X factor in this entire fight isn't technique or power. It's the cardio straight up. That's what the whole thing might come down to, because we've already seen what Khamzat looks like in round 1. It's dominance, it's control, it's suffocation. But what we haven't really seen is what happens if the finish doesn't come. What happens if the guy across from him survives the storm, you know? That's where things get interesting, because Dricus, he's built for that kind of fight. It might not look pretty, but the man can push a pace. Even when he looks exhausted, mouth open, chest heavy, he's still in your face, still throwing, still forcing exchanges. We've seen it time and time again. You think he's done, and then he finds another gear. Now, to be fair, Khamzat's team has been talking a lot about how he changed his training, how he's focused more on pacing, working with Sam Calavita, tightening up his endurance, and all that. And if it's true, if Khamzat can keep that round 1 pressure going to round 2 and round 3 without falling off a cliff, that's terrifying, because that's been the only weakness anyone's been able to point to. If that's patched up, man, this might not even be a competitive fight. But we don't know yet. That's the part that hasn't been tested. Whitaker tapped in and won. Usman slowed the fight down but still lost. Burns, he's the only guy who made Khamzat look human. And it happened because he refused to go away. That's what Dricus has to do. He has to be the guy who doesn't break. Because if Khamzat starts fading and Dricus is still there, still pushing, still dragging him into a dogfight, that's where things can get interesting. Because both guys are dangerous. Both guys have a real path to victory. And what makes this fight so damn compelling, it's not the hype, it's the tension. Two very different fighters. One big question. Who breaks first? With all that being said, I'm still gonna go with Dricus by Mario Stomp or by Falling Piano. But besides that, I guess we're gonna find out,